In today's episode, we're along with Philip Gruesome on an Alpha 8 tournament in London with a buy-in of £100,000. The blinds are 18,000 and 36,000, and the ante is 4,000. In this high roller final table, we are heads up and Scott Seaver limps from the small blind, which is also the button, heads up. Philip checks. On the flop, Philip doesn't have much more than some equity in the hand with two overs and a runner-runner to a king-high flush. Philip knows that he has to lead here because if Seaver bets, he can't call with air, because he'll be facing another bet or bets on later streets. He also knows that if he leads out, he can represent, as the big blind, a board that connected with his cards. Philip bets 55,000 and Scott calls. Philip can assume that if Scott connected with the board and has more than a pair, like a pair with a straight draw or two pair, he'll raise Philip's bet. If he has an ace or queen high flush draw, he might raise as well. At this point, Philip can assume that Scott has some kind of one-pair hand, or just two overs. On the turn, a nine of spades shows up. Now, Philip could be drawing into the second nuts, but it doesn't matter. He was representing a decent hand from the flop. So with this nine, which is on Philip's alley based on what he was representing from the flop, it's going to be hard for Scott to call with a one-pair hand. Philip continues with his story and bets 115,000, but Scott, who remains unconvinced, calls. Now Philip can assume that Scott didn't hit a flush. He might have one spade. But it's probably a one-pair hand with a big kicker or a card that can complete a straight on the river. On the river, a 3 shows up. This card can also help Philip represent a straight from his bet on the flop. And looking back to the flop, it's hard to put Scott on a 5. Besides that, Philip knows that Scott didn't hit a flush, so it narrows Scott's range of making a call here with hands other than a flush or a straight. With this fact and the fact that Philip was representing a big hand, and Philip knows he has to bet here in order to win the pot, he bets 175,000. Scott folds the best hand.